welcome to another great episode of Full Throttle TV. I'm your host, Michael, and my co-host and co-creator,
Ron Millington.
Yeah, we created this show. We were talking about TV shows with like cool cars, vehicles, like, vans and planes and stuff like that. So the first episode, if you missed it, you can find it on our website, Facebook, Retro Rocket Entertainment. First one we discussed Airwolf, Blue Thunder, and Automan. And this one we decided to focus a little on the good old boys. Dukes of Hazzard, BJ and the Bear. And this one's actually kind of rare, is Moving On, even though it was on for, I think, 2.5 seasons. But no one really seems to remember that one. We found this as kind of a fluke. But the first one we're going to discuss is Dukes of Hazzard.
My favorite.
This was kind of like, if you hadn't seen this, I should say before we really get into this, we were both from Indiana. So Dukes of Hazzard, while we're a little bit north of where the show is set, it's like that and Little House on the Prairie. You had to have seen those. If you didn't watch either one of those shows, you were like from another planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Dukes of Hazzard is probably still airing in reruns somewhere in Indiana.
I'd say that's a show that will never die.
And it's a show that never really got any respect when it first came on. In fact, I was watching a documentary. It's up on YouTube. They were talking about the making of the show and the fact that it got kind of commissioned based around the fact that Smokey and the Bandit was so popular. But just in general, like Southern shows were starting to become more popular. But CBS was actually ashamed of the show, and when the pilot was shot, they rejected it. The head of CBS actually rejected the pilot, but somewhere along the way, someone else really pushed, and they had a gap in their schedule, so they said, you know what, okay, we'll just do 13 episodes, and it turned out to be a massive success. I mean, the thing was on for, 8 years?
Yeah.
7
8
years.
seasons, I think?
7 years,
yeah.
145 episodes. And just to think, we were this close to never even seeing one episode.
Oh, that would have sucked.
So, did you watch Dukes of Hazzard when it was originally on, or did you watch it in reruns?
Let's see. Chances are, I don't remember a lot when I was real young, so I probably watched a lot of reruns. But, that being said, more than likely I did watch it when it was on.
Yeah, I think I solely watched it when it was in reruns. If anything, I caught it at the very end.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I probably caught the earlier seasons when I was in reruns. Because I was, 79, that would have been 3.
Yeah, you wouldn't have any memory of that at all, I'm sure.
No. I mean, look at the pretty orange car.
Yeah. Speaking of, what is that car? I used to have a bunch of the little, I don't know if it was Matchbox that made those. I used to get them in the mail like every year. You'd have to turn in a certain amount of UPCs from buying Matchbox or Hot Wheels, and you would get one. And I had 3 or 4 of them.
How did I miss out on that deal?
I don't know. It was a great thing. Yeah, I always go to the post office, and I think that wasn't the only car that they had. I think I had the 18 vehicle. I had the Batmobile. Then they had all these weird ones like superheroes, but they weren't really in the shows or anything. Like Spider-Man had his car, but I don't recall Spider-Man ever driving a car in the show, or Hulk. Hulk would just destroy the car, the Hulk van. He'd just step in and tear the door off, and that's it.
Yeah, I did have the Hulk van. I remember that. Well, this car was a '69 Charger. Well, depending, they used some '68s in the show as well, but mostly it was supposed to be '69. They changed over some grill and some other parts to make it look like '69s. So,
yeah, and there's I think they used hundreds of cars. They destroyed a car every 2 episodes because they're so rough on them.
What does it say here? Recorded many record-breaking jumps. Almost all of them resulting in a completely destroyed car. It says they used 309 Chargers in total.
Jeez. Okay, so that's not every 2 episodes. That's 2 per episode. The budget on the cars must have been insane. If they did the show now, the cars would probably be CG.
Oh, that would suck. That's just not right.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't be the same if you didn't see that same hubcap, getting lodged up into the fender or seeing the axle split in half.
I think the most memorable part of the thing is, you love the characters, but a lot of people think that the car was probably the most popular character. I mean, where else? I think it's the only show in history to get fan letters for a non-living thing. It's the General Lee would get fan letters, and he would in fact. I mean, he. Okay, so apparently the General Lee's a boy. The car would get more fan letters than all the cast members combined. That's crazy.
What?
Yeah, I mean, do you think Airwolf got any fan letters? Maybe a dozen. But yeah, that's what it said, is that it got more fan mail than anybody else.
Okay, it's got to be from kids, huh?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Well, or crazy people. But I mean,
right. Well,
was there any response? Did the studio have someone pretend to be like, the journalist, he's an author now. He can write these fancy letters.
Dear so-and-so, beep, beep. No, I'm sorry, the Dixie horn.
I'm sorry, I do not have hands. My cousin Herbie took care of this for me.
You know, it's funny. I was reading that the Dixie horn was not planned. That was a happy accident. Some other guy in a hot rod all souped up and was driving by and had that Dixie horn set up on his car, and they chased him down to find out where he got it.
Huh, that's cool.
And the rest is history.
I mean, I would say that so many things you remember from that episode, but it always seems to be this thing that pops in my head is them jumping off some huge things, and, you know, they're going completely vertical, and then you're gonna, like a how does it go again? I can't remember. That's right. And then they hear woo, and you're like, how did that car do that?
That is spot on, Mike.
Okay,
Awesome.
so the Confederate flag has been a point of controversy over the last 20 years.
Right.
Now, during the 70s, now this is just my theory, I've kind of noticed this, post-Vietnam, you know, the nation's hurting, you know, emotionally and physically and financially, and we don't know how to deal with things, and something about going back to the roots of America, and it's not just the South, just like a simpler way of living. So the music changed. Nostalgia, I think, for the first time kicked in. I don't think nostalgia existed before the Vietnam War, and you know, people started being interested in what happened 100 years ago before war, you know, before the Civil War and stuff like that. You know, and it shows you know, Bonanza were still on, Gunsmoke, and Little House of Prairie came out, and it was, you know, taking it back to just simple times. And I think Dukes of Hazzard is kind of like that. Not only is it against the man, you know, the corrupt man, which was kind of popular in the 70s and 80s, it was also just about the simplicity of Southern life. And the Confederate flag, I don't think it stands for the South rising again and you know, getting, you know, separating and having slaves again. I think it was more about they were the underdogs, you know, not just the Dukes, but the South. I mean, they suffered for so long. They still suffer, you know, financially and educational-wise. And I think it's just about having some sort of pride in yourself, even when the times are tough. Yeah. And plus the fact that they were always against Boss Hogg, so they were rebellious. So I think it stood for that. I don't really think it stood for the negative connotations of the Confederate flag.
Right. I was like, the original Confederate flag was a sign of, you know, what they were trying to fight for, that sort of thing. That was their split off, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I'm great with my words here. But I think as the years have gone by, it's just become a symbol of the South as a culture, I guess, if you will. Slavery aside, that's part of the past. Now, that's not saying there aren't people out there who still live and die by that creed, but, you know, we don't need to talk about them on this show. So.
Right.
But, I don't know. I remember growing up as a kid loving that flag just because it stood for the Dukes of Hazzard, and I had no idea what it meant.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of kids knew. It took a long time. I think it wasn't until I saw North and South that I kind of got a general idea about what it stood for. I was like, oh, all right.
That's about the same time I figured it out.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I don't know what the 01 stands for. Is it just there to be cool, or did they race cars at one time?
They did. It was built to be a race car, but I'm not sure that. I think, and that's something I couldn't find, what the one actually stood for. But so I can't help you there. But yeah, they did originally build the car as a race car because that was their thing. So
you know what's funny is how many times they did not get in the car normal, right? Their doors were sealed shut.
Nope.
They're always sliding across the hood and then jumping right in. And I always wondered how many times they'd go to jump in and like, oh, God, my knee!
Well, let me tell you, sliding across that hood is not an easy thing to do. Not that I know from experience. But
No, I've seen you do it, and you slide. You would either dead stop. I've only seen you do it a few times. You would either dead stop and kind of like funk, 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 or you go way too fast. You'd slide across the whole thing. Oh, cement!
Well, you gotta have a hood that's made for it. And those Chargers had a really long, smooth nose, but my little Mustang wasn't so much the same way. So,
Do you know, it's funny, John Schneider sold his General Lee. This is weird. It says that there was an eBay auction that garnered almost $10 million for the car, but apparently it was all a hacking scam, and then it ended up selling for $450,000. He actually made a movie that was an homage to that kind of thing, like the Dukes of Hazzard kind of world, called Collier and Company. Have you ever seen it?
I have not.
I think he made a sequel too, but he used all the money he made from Smallville and selling off the car and stuff like that to make this movie, and he made it for like $1 million.
Really?
Yeah.
Collier and Company.
Yeah,
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. It's kind of hard to find. I don't know if he sells exclusively through his website or it's just kind of a kind of like low level movie where it didn't get a lot of promotion. Now, Waylon Jennings, of course, he sang the song that opened the show, Good Old Boys. Now, you remember, we have kind of a story about trying to see Waylon Jennings at Lollapalooza.
Oh.
I got to see Waylon Jennings. You did not get to see Waylon Jennings.
Although apparently I missed an interesting concert.
Yeah, you missed your window of getting to that concert. It's such a small... What are you doing?
Phone call, sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like, that's a weird theme song. No, but Waylon Jennings, he was at Lollapalooza, and it's so strange because it was Soundgarden, the Ramones, Screaming Trees, Buddhist monks. Buddhist monks were awesome, but they're out of place too. And then Metallica. But between Soundgarden and Metallica was Waylon Jennings, and people lost their minds, but not in a good way. They were throwing bottles, screaming and cussing, and Metallica came out and go, "You sit down and respect this man now, or we're not playing." All of a sudden, you see the entire place sitting down, being quiet, and then Good Old Boys came on. Everybody does like, "Woo, yeah!"
Respect.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people didn't know who he was, which is kind of ridiculous because he's so huge. But that song, all of a sudden everybody's like, "Hey, I know this song."
So they should have put him out there and put a cardboard something over his face, and everyone would know exactly who he is.
Yeah. And of course, he's the narrator of the show, at least in the beginning, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they did it the whole time or not, but I know that was him. So
I have to say, I never finished the show. Once the cousins came in, the horrible idea to fire John Schneider and Tom Wopat and replace them with the cousins who look just like them, except less charming. That not only just killed it for me, but killed the show in general. I mean, it did continue for another season or two, but whenever they do stuff like that, bring in a replacement, it kills the momentum almost instantly.
Right. They did come back, and thankfully.
Yeah. And of course, there's the reunion movies. I remember we watched those.
Yeah.
I don't recall the second one being very good. I think the first one was just a straight up reunion, and then the second one is like they go to Hollywood, and I don't remember that one being all that entertaining. I don't think they ever made another one.
I don't recall seeing that one, honestly. I just saw that yesterday, and I mean, I've seen the reunion movies, but I've not seen the Hollywood one, I don't think.
The one thing, and nothing, when you're 19, you're kind of like, oh yeah, Daisy Duke. And then you saw in the reunion movie, I was like, oh, maybe you probably shouldn't be wearing those shorts anymore. No, no, I'm sorry. Not that you're obese or anything or out of shape. It's just, it is too late for you to be wearing those.
Yeah.
Now,
a lot of people would be up in arms, unfortunately, if she didn't.
Yeah. Did you ever go to the museum in Gatlinburg?
I have, yes.
I've been to Gatlinburg, but I don't think it existed when I was there. I went in, I believe, 86 or... Yeah, it was either 86 or 87 I went to Gatlinburg. And Dollywood existed, but I never saw Cooters.
I'm going to take it back. We went, and they were closed. Oh. We were able to get our picture taken in the general and take pictures of the outside, but they were just closing up. It's like,
that's a bummer, dude. That's like getting the Wally World at the end of Vacation. I'm sorry, Wally World is closed.
That's just wrong. Oh, let's just...
Yeah, so I was sitting there looking at the ratings. You know, I mean, during season 3, it was number 2 show in the country. It was making 21 million viewers an episode. Wow. That's crazy. But of course, by the end, you can see like season 3 is number 2, season 4 is number 6. And then they fired the 2 boys, and all of a sudden it plummeted to 29, and then just
holy crap!
Yeah, that's a huge drop.
Well, gotta learn their lesson somehow, I guess.
Yeah, you know that happened to Chips too. I remember the Eric Estrada left for a while, and then it was just never the same. Bummer.
I loved that show, but I don't recall ever watching it all the way through.
No. A lot of these shows I never finished. I mean, they went on for a long time, and when you're a kid, your interest just kind of bounces around. For the most part, I was watching cartoons. And speaking of cartoons, did you know they had a cartoon of the Dukes?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of shows back then that had cartoons, and you're just like, Gilligan's Planet, what? And then like the Fonzie and the Happy Days gang and Laverne and Shirley Hour. You're like, no, let's just focus on the main thing here. But the problem is that Coy and Vance are the stars of the cartoon. If you're gonna launch the cartoon series, you gotta have with Bo and Luke.
Well, it was pretty comical that they did, were even there to begin with. So. Yeah.
And of course, Enos had a spin-off, but I never saw that. And I don't think that lasted very long at all.
No, I tried looking that up. I think it was sometime last year. I could never find any episodes of it.
Yeah, well, a lot of stuff from the 70s, 80s, man. There's no history of it. It's like as if it didn't exist. You can't find it anywhere.
Right. Oh well.
Well, the complete series is out on DVD, except for season 7. Dude.
Okay, can we pause?
Yeah. Sorry about that. So season 7 is the only one that's not available worldwide. It's available in America, but oddly enough, I don't think they've ever put out the complete series. What I never liked was when they do a complete series, but it really isn't a complete series because there's other things they could add on. Like that 70s show, you could add on that 80s show because they're not going to put that show out on its own probably. So why don't you just throw it on as a bonus? And why don't you throw the Dukes cartoon in and the Enish in with like the whole, call it like the Dukes franchise. You know, because there are fans. There has to be some fans out there who are at least interested in maybe not even the whole series, just an episode or two.
Right. Well,
Did you ever watch the movie? The remake?
The remake?
Yeah, they did a remake with Sean William Scott and Johnny.
Sorry, I'm just totally out of it right now. Yes, I did watch the one with Sean William Scott. I did not watch the other one.
The direct-to-video one where it was like the prequel.
Yeah, I don't know why. I wasn't really interested.
Yeah, I've never really been a fan of direct-to-video sequels. The only time it ever seems to work, I think, was with Tremors. Like those movies are great, all the sequels. But usually it's like, oh, this is not good.
I've been having a little bit of a problem. It doesn't mean they're bad movies or whatever, but like with Starsky and Hutch, and what was the other one? Well, they'll take our old shows that used to be somewhat. Yeah, and they turn them into comedies.
Yeah.
It's just, what?
Now, here's the thing is, I got a love-hate thing about those because those are good movies, but they disrespect where they came from. And
that's what I have a problem with.
Like, I've been watching Starsky and Hutch. I never watched it before, and it's actually pretty serious. And 21 Jump Street was definitely serious. It's actually an extremely important show back in the 80s. It dealt with a lot of issues like homelessness and prostitution, drugs, and as entertaining as those movies are, they're like, no, this isn't 21 Jump Street. This is a parody of 21 Jump Street, which is just weird.
Right. You should have called it, like 14,
yeah, some sort of
slide street. I don't know.
Yeah, the mod Jump Street. So it could be a mod squad and Jump Street.
There you go.
Yeah, the Dukes of Hazzard movie. I remember being entertained by it, but I can't remember a whole lot from it now. It's been 10 years maybe since it come out. So I'm not going to say it's a fantastic movie. I still don't understand why it needed to cost $50 million. It was probably in development for like ever and ever, and they had to eat those costs. But that kind of thing I never understand. But you just can't beat the original show. Yes, it's fluff. It is fluff. It's not like a really intense show. It's not Hill Street Blues. It's not even Airwolf. But it's meant for families, So, you want to have an adventure show with good morals. and really not a lot of violence. They didn't use guns. They used bow and arrows, you know, and their fists.
Yep.
When was the last time you saw a show where it was just like fisticuffs, you know, like boom, that's it, you know? You know, and Uncle Jesse always had the best advice.
Uh-huh. I always wish, yeah. I would have loved to have him as my father or whatever, you know. It's just, honestly, I look at Uncle Jesse, and maybe it has something to do with the truck he drove, because my grandpa, Benny, had the same similar truck.
Yeah.
But he always had that same kind of sage advice, you know. It was just, he didn't have the beard, but he reminded me a lot of him.
Yeah, it's funny. I never even noticed it before because I hadn't seen the first episode. I can't really tell you if I have seen the very first episode before a week ago. I didn't realize that Bo and Luke and Daisy are all cousins. None of them are really, you know, I thought one of them was siblings with the other one. I didn't remember that. And the fact that their parents were like on a trip together and they got killed in a car accident. That's how they ended up being taken care of by Uncle Jesse. Right.
Yeah, I didn't know that until a few weeks ago looking at that myself. I mean, I knew they were cousins. I didn't know the backstory, though.
Yeah, for some reason I thought Daisy and Bo were brother and sister, and then Luke was the cousin. I don't know. It's been so long. I hadn't seen that show in probably 20 years. Not since the movie ones when we were watching them. Remember when TNN existed before it became Spike?
Spike.
Yeah, we used to watch Dukes of Hazzard in the afternoon when we were in college. I remember that. Yeah, and kind of missed that.
I do too.
And Spike doesn't really air anything besides like you know, garbage like Cops. Oh wow, Cops on again. Yeah, just show some good shows. Okay, so the second show, I think we were done with Dukes of Hazzard. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so our second show is actually kind of obscure. It's called Moving On. We were kind of looking for a trucker show. There's a show called 18 Wheels of Justice, but it's beyond me to be able to find a single episode, so I have no idea if it's any good or not. But I found this one while looking up BJ and the Bear because it has the same star, Claude Akins. This was on for 2 years, and it's about truckers. I think it's in Oregon. You watched more episodes than I did. Here's the theme song.
Big wheels rolling, gotta keep them going. Big wheels rolling, moving on. The white line is the lifeline to the nation, and men like Will and Sonny make it move. A good hot cup of coffee is waiting up ahead, and the rhythm of the highway hums along. Jamming gears has got to be a fever. Our men become addicted to the grind. It takes a special breed to be a truck driving man and a steady hand to pull that load behind. Big wheels rolling, gotta keep them going. Big wheels rolling, moving on.
All right, so that's Moving On, and I actually enjoyed the show. I had never seen it before, never even heard of it, and the entire series is up on YouTube. It's pretty dramatic, actually. I was expecting like a good old boy kind of show, like more family oriented, but it balances the two. It takes like the aspect of post Vietnam, discovering the world again. You know, that's the way it was after World War II. You know, people were hitting the road, trying to see what life was all about, and this show's kind of like that too. You know, just going from town to town and just seeing what people are like in each area. Like, that's the worst description I've ever given for anything ever.
It's okay. I say now, honestly, you said I had seen more than you, which means I've probably seen one or two more than you just because of this show. But I like it, and it might have a lot to do with the fact that I drove truck for a little while. But
I actually forgot about that.
Yeah. So now I didn't drive truck in the '80s. It was nothing like what he was up against. But
what was that like? What did you do? Did you travel across the country? Or did you kind of stay close to Indiana?
I did. I was over the road for about a year and a half. The idea was to go pay off my schooling, so I was under contract for that, and then I was going to come back and work local, and that just didn't work out. I couldn't find anything. Those local jobs are cake jobs. Everybody wants them.
Yeah, and you pretty much stay with him for life, because that's what Dave does. He's not a trucker, but he drives a delivery truck. Is he still with Hostess?
I believe he's driving for a new company now. No, Hostess went belly up. Or International Brands did, and so he's working for another company now.
But did you like
Still doing.
trucking?
I there were aspects of it that I really loved. I tell people, if you like to try, no, what did I say? How do I word this? I got to get really close to a lot of really cool places. Meaning, you're always on the run. You're either sleeping or you're driving. You have a little bit of off time, but typically you're always on the move, which means you're driving by a lot of really cool places that you don't have time to stop.
Yeah, that's
It's like it's the first time I'd ever seen the mountains, the Rockies, but didn't get a whole lot of chance to really see them. So, but I enjoyed it. I wouldn't trade it in for anything.
Well, you have kids now, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, that was a big reason why I came home. I had missed a year of my daughter growing up, and it's just, for some people they can do it, but me, seeing how much she grew in that year, it killed me.
Yeah.
So.
What's funny is, you remember we used to travel. The listeners aren't really going to know this, of course, but we used to travel a very long way from home to school, like on a regular basis. It was like a 4.5 hour, 5 hour trip, through, like from the top of Indiana to the bottom of Indiana. And even when we were younger, we had this fascination with truckers. We were always watching trucker movies and talking about it and stuff like that. Even more so than like cool cars and motorcycles. Something about trucking was just really cool. We even had those CBs, remember?
I had a CB in my Mustang, mounted to the ceiling.
We used to play with those all the time and talk to people. I mean, we didn't ever end up in a situation like on Joyride, like Rusty Nail. This is what was the? You remember that? This is Rusty Nail. Oh no, run! But I do remember. You remember Matt Schroeder had a portable CB, and we had it in the dorms. And Brian decided to mess with someone, and they got very, very angry with us.
Yeah.
Well, not angry with us. We were just observing, and then it was like kind of like, oh, this is kind of funny too. Oh, dude, don't mess with a trucker. Don't mess with a trucker. Brian, shut up, stop talking. And then like someone else jumped in and made it even worse. We're like, we're out of this one. I mean, it's goofing off is one thing, but man, like totally insulting a trucker. There's I think there's two types of truckers, and we basically were lucky to meet like the hardworking, the salt of the earth kind of guy who's just trying to make his bills, and then every once in a while you run into a trucker personality that's like, oh, you're just a sociopath who couldn't do anything else for a living,
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy, and you don't want to mess with those guys. You don't want to screw around with a CB like, oh god, we're all gonna die. He's gonna figure out where we are. And I remember we would always go by trucks. Remember, we were always like doing the
yeah. Who didn't?
We're grown men. We were 20 probably at the time, still doing this. You know what? Even if I saw one now, I'd be half tempted to go, you know what? Hey, buddy.
Well, now I have an excuse. I've got a 4-year-old in the back seat. So.
Right, I know. I'm just a weirdo.
No. The funny thing is, they still do it. And, they enjoy it, so what the heck. But, I say I didn't realize that Claude Akins was in Battle of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I'm a pretty hardcore fan of Planet of the Apes, and I remember that. In fact, I think he's also in the Magnificent Seven, the second one.
Yeah, the second one.
He did a lot of movies, and then basically the 70s and 80s were just TV for him. And he had some success here and there. Of course, this was probably his first TV show that took off. Though 2 seasons back in the day probably isn't very much. Now, a show lasts 48 episodes now. You're like, ooh, that's pretty good. But back then, shows had to get like, 17 million viewers a week, which would be amazing. That'd be like a phenomenon now.
Right.
And lasting 2 or 3 seasons. Like, yeah, that's pretty good. But things are just so different back then because you only had 3 networks.
So I remember him, Claude Akins. Who doesn't know Claude Akins? If you've watched any Western from the 50s and 60s, you probably have seen him in something. I was like, because I remember him from seasons or Bonanza episodes. What else? I was looking through here. I know I've seen him in those. Gunsmoke. I used to watch that religiously. But yeah,
I've never actually seen Gunsmoke. There's a lot of
really?
Western. Yeah, I never really watched any Westerns when I was a kid. I thought they were weird, except for like the ones that were my age group, like Young Riders. I basically only watched Young Riders.
Love that movie.
I never watched even the other show that was on at the time was that Guns of Paradise.
Right.
I never watched that show. I never watched Hawkeye. I think there's a couple other Western shows at the time, but I never watched them. It wasn't until probably about I don't know, 12, 13 years ago when I sat down and actually watched The Magnificent Seven for the first time, that I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Then as you start going into more of those movies, I've watched most of the movies, though. I haven't watched the TV shows. But yeah, you do see Clyde Akins actually quite a bit during that time period.
Uh-huh. Well, you think of a truck driver as a modern-day cowboy.
Yeah, just hitting the road, discovering the world, and then a lot of these shows, they were going from town to town fighting crime. Now, Moving On wasn't really about that. Theirs was more of a drama. It was not an action show.
Right.
That first episode, just dealing with the kid. Oh, who was that kid? I just watched it. It was Michael J. Pollard. He's dealing with cancer, and he doesn't even know it. And they just try to give him one last great ride before he gets too sick.
Now, I watched in tandem. I did not actually watch the first episode. I watched part of it, so I know what you're talking about. But I watched in tandem, which was the movie that came before the series.
Yeah, you got to send me that link because I didn't realize it was a movie until I'm sitting here reading about this. Because I started with the first episode. So yeah, what's funny is back in the day, that's what they used to do. They used to do a pilot movie, and if it was successful enough, it would turn to a series. So every once in a while, you would see a movie and be like, well, that's kind of open-ended. Not like in a sequel way, like as in really open-ended, as in it was supposed to be a TV series. Or it was two patched together episodes to be a movie. But that was like typical. Like the first episode would be longer, and if people liked it, it would turn into a series. I kind of miss that because you could make your money back by selling it on video or selling it to cable.
Right.
Now you hear about pilots all the time, and then you never see them. I still think it's crap that we don't get to choose what's on TV. Why do the networks get to choose it? Because there's so many shows that have potential. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen Heat, Vision, and Jack. Have you ever seen that with Jack Black and Owen Wilson voicing? It's a parody of all those shows that we love that we're talking about now. It's a spoof on $6 Million Man and like Knight Rider because
awesome.
Ben Stiller created this right after the success of Something About Mary. He created it for Fox, and Jack Black is an astronaut who goes up and somehow the sun bakes his brain. It's complete nonsense. The sun bakes his brain to abnormal size so that he can absorb so much knowledge. All of a sudden, he knows everything in the world. He becomes like a MacGyver. And
nice.
His best friend gets shot with a laser gun when he comes back down to Earth, and he absorbs into his motorcycle. So, it's like I said, it's nonsense. So, the Heat Vision is the motorcycle, a talking motorcycle with Owen Wilson's voice, and then Jack Black on these adventures. I gotta find the link for you. It's hilarious.
Definitely.
Yeah. it respects the genre at the same time. It kind of like, this is kind of ridiculous.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So moving on, 2 seasons. I believe every episode's up on YouTube. There's not really a whole lot to say because, like I said, you and me have not really watched a whole lot of it. But the song was by Merle Haggard, and it was actually #1 on the charts.
Yeah, that's what kind of blew my mind. He did a lot of that apparently.
And then moving on, they didn't. Weird that they had merchandising, but they had merchandising walkie-talkies and CBs.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Huh. For those of you who want to know, the star, or the co-star rather, of this show was a '73 Kenworth W925. Nothing fancy, just green with this big silver arrow-looking thing down the side of it. But
I thought you were going to say Frank Converse. I recognized the name, but I kept looking at him going, no, I have no idea who that is.
I didn't either. Not a clue.
What's funny is, in Indiana, I always thought like the coolest trucks were the Peterbilts.
I'm a big Peterbilt fan, so and I may have just come from my dad. Who knows? But
yeah. Well, no, they were just like really. From what I learned about them, especially from you, is like they were just like the top. They were like the Mercedes. I mean, not like Fancy Nancy, but they were the best, like well put together trucks.
Right. Let's say your Kenworths and your Freightliners are decent trucks, and there's a bunch of others out there. But the Peterbilts are like, I hesitate to say it, but they're a lot like the Harley Davidson of the truck world. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're epitome of an American truck.
This is probably going too far back, and you may not know what I'm talking about. But there was a kid our freshman year of college that you were friends with, and he always had a Peterbilt hat on, and I think he ended up becoming a driver for them.
Well, that would be Doug, and he actually flew. He was down there to be a pilot.
Okay. He was in the aviation program. Was he in there with Raju?
Well, Raju was there to be a mechanic.
Okay.
And Doug was there to be a pilot. So I probably didn't had a few of the same classes probably. But,
okay. We went off into a zone that no one was going to know what we're talking about. Sorry.
You guys don't know who these kids. Anyway.
All right. So our third show is actually connected to Moving On, because after that ended, CB craze is still hot. Trucker movies are hot, and the whole Smoking the Bandit thing changed a lot of like that southern genre. That movie made so much money, and Smoking the Bandit went up against Star Wars, and it still made $100 million. So it connected with people.
Right. Definitely.
So because of that, I believe that's why BJ and the Bear exists, because it came out 2 years later and it just kind of locked into what was going on at the time, like the popularity of the CBs. And you know what? Who doesn't love a monkey? A man and his monkey. To steal a line from Kevin Smith. All right, so here's the theme song to BJ and the Bear. So the funny thing about BJ and the Bear is, I remember watching this as a kid, mostly because you throw a monkey in front of a kid, he's gonna be like, oh, I gotta watch this. I don't care if it's good or bad. I gotta see that. It's something. And plus, he had like a little cool hat and he drove the truck. But it was a serious show, which is bizarre because it doesn't seem like it should have been.
Yeah, that's a show I never actually watched. I'm not sure. I remember knowing about the show, and I definitely recognized that truck, but I never actually seen the show.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow. You know what? Okay, so I watched a bunch of episodes. You know how there's like a handful of those retro stations now that you find on TV, like MeTV and the Retro Network and stuff like that. I think it was about 6 years ago they started airing BJ and the Bear and Sheriff Lobo, and I started catching some of them, and it's funny. I really thought it was a family show, like the way Dukes of Hazzard was, but the show was pretty serious. I mean, I watched it again, like a handful of episodes, and I'm like, if I was 6, I'd be traumatized by this.
The sheriff's a little bit more corrupt than Roscoe ever was.
Right. It's really about corruption and like just really serious problems, which is also bizarre because it comes from Glenn Larson, who didn't exactly do stuff that wasn't fluff. I mean, he did Knight Rider and Battlestar Galactica, though Battlestar Galactica did start off really serious and then turned to fluff later. He did a lot of shows around vehicles too, which is kind of like his thing.
Yeah.
And but no, I was just watching the episode recently. I was like, this is like real drama, and I think what undermines it is the fact that it's not a family show, but it has the monkey. So automatically, you got one thing going against you. 2, Greg Evigan was kind of a pretty boy, good actor, very underrated, but he was kind of a pretty boy. And I think critics probably looked at it and go, nah, this is garbage, without really like sitting down and watching it.
I was like, when I saw the first episode, I'm looking at him thinking, he doesn't look like a trucker to me. No. Is there, the epitome of what, is there a stereotypical trucker, I guess, but I mean, I'm not a stereotypical trucker, but.
No. I didn't realize the song was sung by Greg Evigan.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Nice. Actually, that's one of the, who doesn't like good old boys? But really like that theme song.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's fun. It just screams the 70s, I guess.
It does. It does. Okay, so watching the first episode, Claude Akins is the villain. Now, here's the weird thing is, he's supposed to be like a counterbalance between like the way, like I said, Smokey and the Bandit. So he's supposed to be Smokey, and Greg Evan, BJ is supposed to be like the Bandit, and
right.
But he's actually a monster in that first episode. I mean, he's really a corrupt, evil monster, and it's strange that he would eventually get his own spin-off called The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, which lasted 2 seasons. And I don't know if he reformed himself. I got to watch the episodes again because somewhere along the way he goes from being just pure vile monster to being the lovable sheriff who thinks just things will screw up for him. More like a Sergeant Bilko kind of guy.
Yeah,
that's weird though. It went from that to a comedy.
It says I read somewhere he's supposed to be reformed, but
yeah, somewhere along
coming from where he was, I just what happened to him that maybe we need to watch more BJ and the Bear and see what happened at the end.
Oh yeah, here's the thing: is BJ and the Bear is not on DVD. Not a single episode is on DVD, even though it has still to this day a cult following. People will remember the show, and it wasn't a huge hit. It was kind of like one of those middle of the road shows, like between like 20 and 40 on the ratings list.
Right.
And still though, I mean, I've seen much worse shows, shows that had less popularity get on DVD, and I don't understand. The only thing I can possibly think is every episode I've seen so far uses licensed music.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, they didn't have the rights to put them out on home video. It costs a lot less just to say, "Hey, we're just gonna use this in the TV area," and
right.
It probably costs a lot of money to put it out. But they did WKRP without the music the first time around, so at least they could test the waters to see if people want to buy it. Just put out the first season, take out some of the music, put in generic music. I mean, is the music really that important to BJ and the Bear? I get why it's important to WKRP.
Well, some of the music I was hearing, it just seemed like it puts you in the era. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes you connect better. And so as far as that goes, I think music's important, but I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But
yeah, so you really can't find the episodes. It's a lot of fun though. Not in a fun in a goofy way. It's just like, wow, this was like really good entertainment for back then, because a lot of shows back then were kind of crummy. They don't hold up very well. I still found it pretty entertaining.
Yeah, me too.
And what does he drive?
Let's see. He's also in a Kenworth. It's a cab over K100. 1980, it says. Those were very popular back in the 70s, what have you, but as things, I guess if you look over to Europe, everyone drives a truck that has no nose on it. If you ever wondered why, it's because there's restrictions on truck lengths and stuff like that over there that we don't have over here anymore. We used to in the 70s, but they were laxed after a while. There were certain states that you couldn't drive in with a long, certain length truck. But sometime in the 80s, I think, somewhere along those lines, those rules were lifted, and now all our trucks are behemoths. But
yeah.
And that makes it for a nicer long-run truck, too. I mean, you put your engine up front, and then you're not worrying about what you're keeping in your cab. So
I clicked on the Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo just to see what they said about it.
Yeah.
And it was voted number 36 on the top 50 worst TV shows of all time.
What number?
Number 36.
36?
Still, even if you make that top 50 list, you're in trouble. I wonder if Manimal is on that list. It's got to be somewhere on that list. And the funny thing is, just because it makes a bad list doesn't mean you're not going to enjoy it. There are some shows on there, I'm sure, that I've been like, I kind of liked it.
I've always been, gone my own way.
Yeah. Well,
never listened to the critics.
Yeah, well, when we were kids, we were like, this is a huge bomb, and people hated it. Remember how I stuck to Waterworld? I stuck to Waterworld when no one else would. I'm like, I love this movie! And people were like...
I stuck to it too, man.
Yeah.
I don't watch it regularly because it's 3 hours long.
Yeah. Oh, have you seen the director's cut? You better be taking a nap between the...
No kidding. But I think anything Kevin Costner did in that era was 3 hours long. But anyway.
It was like the rule, wasn't it? Like, everything he did was like... no, I can't have a 2 hour. And it wasn't until, like, I think that was it 5,000 Miles of Graceland or something like that, where it was under 2 hours. You're like, it doesn't make the movie any better.
Nope. Oh well.
I'm kind of curious. I'm looking at the top TV Guide's top 50 worst TV shows of all time. I'm just curious what made it on there. Oh no, this is the greatest. Oh well, I'll look it up some other time off the air. But I'm just curious to see if any of the car shows that we're going to discuss are on there. I bet you Highwayman is on there, even though I enjoy it for its ridiculousness.
Right.
Did you ever watch that?
I'm gonna have to look at it and see.
It's Glenn Larson. It was pretty much his last major show with on a network, and I think it's only like 8 episodes, and it's like in a slightly alternate universe, but maybe it's actually in the future. I can't tell. But the Highwayman, he goes from town to town saving people, and he has like this massive semi, which also has the front cab.
Oh wow!
The front cab, it'll open up, and it's a helicopter. And then out the back, he has a motorcycle and a car. I think actually a car, not a motorcycle.
I have seen that. Okay, I remember it now. I'm looking at a picture of the truck. That is so cool.
That was also the biggest thing. It had to have been so heavy and so expensive. Man.
That is awesome. Yeah, how did it turn?
Oh, did it need to turn? It drove through things. What are you talking about?
True that.
There's a building in the way, and...
Who does he remind me of? Maybe we should save that for that episode.
No. Well, I'd love to find an episode, but I can't seem to find an episode of Highwayman everywhere. I mean, I had some bootlegs of that about 10 years ago, and I don't remember what happened to it. Maybe that's how you saw it. Maybe I sent it to you. But which are you talking about? The star of Highwayman?
Sam J. Jones, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's Flash Gordon, Sam Jones.
Oh, that's how it. Okay.
His hair is dyed blonde.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at a picture of him now. That's why it's kind of hard to see who he is. But
and his sidekick was Jocko from those Oi commercials. The ones with the batteries. Oi.
Nice. What's Tim Russ from?
Tim Russ is Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah, that's right. Oh, that's right. He's the Vulcan.
You know what? We're already talking about Highwayman, and since we can't find any episodes, I might as well just bring that up right now. I'm going to add an extra one, because I don't know if we're ever going to be able to see this one.
Right.
Speaking of Highwayman, I typed in Highwayman, and I got, guess who I got?
Johnny Cash.
And Waylon Jennings and stuff like that.
Yep, the Highwayman, yeah.
All right, so we'll just pop on this last one. The Highwayman, I remember it being pretty entertaining, but still at the same time, it's a little generic. But here we go to the intro. It was one of those tough guy shows, definitely. Super macho. Super macho.
They say he came into this world from someplace off the clock. That his mother was an ice-cold wind, his paw a fiery rock. It's told that on some starless nights his rig could up and glow, and folks who say they saw it coming swear they didn't see it go. Now you hear a lot of legends told when you ride the long, hard slab, of some who say the man is good and some who say he's bad. But all agree whoever tried to play a cheating hand, you only get one chance to draw against the Highwayman.
How awesome was that? That was the most amazing intro. Seriously, how awesome was that? That's
awesome.
The funny thing is, I remember watching the pilot episode when it first aired, and I remember having more of a Mad Max feel, and I think they kind of went in a different direction when they went to full series. I think they only made it like slight future, so because you kind of watch it and you're like, it doesn't look like that far in the future. It just looks like maybe like a month from now. And a lot of plots, they look like unused scripts from Knight Rider or some other show. That's the only problem. I mean, the show looked cool, but it just didn't have the scripts to follow up.
See, so this is not on DVD?
No, I mean the only time I've ever seen it is because I bought a bootleg of it.
Well, I'm looking here, the images related to it. I'm seeing Mask. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah,
remember the?
Totally.
Yes, that's awesome.
Oh, that's right. And the cast changed a lot. They got rid of a bunch of people after the movie and just went to a series. I don't know. It's just one of those things that had a lot of potential, but they changed it so much that it just I don't think it worked. Plus, it probably had some serious competition.
Right.
And you're not going to see critics like embracing a show like that either, because it's made for kids or just sci-fi fans.
Yeah. It makes a great movie, I think. But...
Yeah. I was trying to see I wanted to see what the truck was made of, because it looks like just complete nonsense.
Yeah, it's a hodgepodge. It looks like. I'm sure there's some big rig underneath there, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah, nowhere on Wikipedia does it say it either. You know what? I love using Skype for the show, but it really annoys the crap out of me that anytime anybody texts me, it goes whip, 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 like pop-up video. See, did you hear it go again? It's going again. Whip. Do you remember playing Super Mario Brothers 2?
I do.
The guy that had the egg pop out of his mouth and you had to like jump on it, pick it up, and throw it at him? It sounds like kind of like that. Alright, so I think that's it for us. We somehow managed to fit in a fourth show. If we ever actually get to see the show again, we will talk about it some more. But Highwayman, it's kind of rare. In the age of YouTube, you think you'd be able to find at least an episode, but so far it's just the intro.
Ah, well.
Yep. Alright, so that was a fun hour. Anything you have to say?
I look forward to the next episode.
Yeah, what do you think? You think we should go motorcycle route? Maybe do Chips, Street Hawk.
Street Hawk, definitely.
Okay, so like I was looking at the shows. Now Renegade had a motorcycle. There's Super Force, which had a motorcycle, but neither one of those shows are that good. Both are kind of crappy. They look cool. Like the motorcycles are pretty awesome, but like Street Hawk is pretty awesome, and of course Chips is a classic. I don't know. Can you think of another motorcycle show?
Super Force. Yeah, I'm just now remembering what you're talking about. I cannot think of any motorcycle shows.
All right. Well, we'll give it till next time. You guys enjoy this episode. Check us out on Facebook, Retro Rock Entertainment, and we'll see what we discuss next time. And
Peace.
have a good night.